Welcome to Film Strip, movie reviews presented by Continuous Play Podcast. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to Film Strip. I'm Jay.
I'm Brian.
I'm Ron.
And this is our review of Scream 4, starring David Arquette, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox, Emma Roberts, Hayden Panettiere, Anthony Anderson, Allison Brie, Adam Brody, Rory Culkin, Marielle Jaffe, Eric Knudsen, Mary McDonald, Marley Shelton, and Nico Tortorella. Written by Kevin Williamson, directed by Wes Craven, released in 2011 on a budget of $40 million, grossed $97.1 at the box office. We need to insert the Price is Right horn there for that. So didn't work out the way they wanted it to, but I'm going to lean on you for a minute here, Ron, with this, because we both have talked about before that we liked and have watched the Scream television show. And is my memory faulting me here or not? Did Craven not want to do a TV show, and then the studio was like, no, you must do a movie, so this is what they came up with?
I hadn't heard that, actually. I'm woefully negligent on my research on this one, but
I could have sworn it was that way, and because there's so many things in this movie that are in that TV show, and I'm not talking about like slight references. I'm talking about major plot point pieces and things that are a big part of that, like characterizations and stuff that are a big part of that TV show. And I wonder what the impetus was. I never bought all the press that, like, we're bringing everybody back. We're going to do another trilogy. We're going to start with new kids and stuff. I never thought they would, get 3 deep in it again. And then I remember when I saw this thing, I thought, well, I don't know where they're going to go after this. Because, I mean, spoiler alert, I expected, like, well, if you're going to do that, all the old cast has got to die, right? So that we can have the new cast around. Nope, they all survive. All the old people make it, except Mary McDonald. And she doesn't matter anyway. So, like, there's nothing to bridge from here. I don't know. I was surprised when I found that they were doing Scream 4, because as bad as Scream 3 was, and we certainly skewered it last week, or the last show, I thought, well, it at least wrapped up the circle there. There's nowhere to go, right? There's nothing left to do. And I was skeptical. I've always been skeptical of this movie, so I don't know that I've ever given it a complete fair shake. What about either of you?
This is the first time I've seen this movie. I remember when it came out and I wanted to see it, but having kids, it's hard to go see movies now, so I don't usually tend to do it. But I remember I bought it right away when I actually bought it like 4 times when it came out, because it was in like the $5 bin all the time. And so I'd always go by and be like, oh, $5, I'll get that. And I'd go home and I'd be like, oh crap, I already have it. But I hadn't watched it up until this point.
I actually went to see it in the theaters after completely skipping Scream 3, mostly because my wife is a big Scream head and wanted to see it. So that's why I went to see Scream 4. Now, I went to see Wes Craven's 3D movie for a completely different reason. But
What was that? I don't remember that one.
Soul Survivors. Yeah, it was poorly done, like post-production 3D, and the movie itself was also bad.
Wasn't that like his version of a Final Destination movie or something?
Yes.
Okay, I thought I remembered that. Yeah, I didn't see it in 3D, but I do remember seeing it like on cable or something and going, is this a bad Final Destination movie? And I was like, no, they're none of those this stupid. And I was like, oh, this is a Wes Craven movie, never mind. So, I mean, like, I'm sorry, like, rest in peace, but horror master my eye, I mean, this guy got it right a couple of times, and mostly.
Hey, if Mick Garris can be a master of horror, anybody can be a master of horror.
Mick Garris is a master of Stephen King's way of adaptation. That's about the only thing he is. But have you ever seen Psycho: The Beginning? I rest my case. So, even as bad as Bates Motel ended for me, still way better than that. So. Yeah, again, I thought, well, how are they going to do this? And then I looked at the cast list, and I'm, a lot older than the target audience for this, obviously, but I knew some of these people. I knew who Alison Brie was. I knew Hayden Panettiere, Emma Roberts. Like, I didn't know there was another Culkin brother, but I'm not surprised. So I was like, okay, fine, we got a Culkin in there. And I recognized, like, the faces of some of these other people. I knew Marley Shelton. Of course, she's an older person in the film. But I knew a lot of the kids here because I watched a lot of the same shows that they were on and stuff. And I thought, well, for the millennial generation, this would be like what it was for me when all the Party of Five and WB cast wound up on, Scream and Scream 2. This was the same thing. So I thought they were going to go, like I said, where it's going to be really focused on those kids, and then the older characters are just going to be on the periphery. And that's sort of what happens, but it's also not entirely what happens. Like, I don't know. I didn't read anything about, like, troubled production or multiple scripts or any of that crap this time, though. I don't know if anybody was trying to steal the script on Scream 4, but there wasn't any of that controversy from my memories of the production of this.
I just want to interject, and so you said you didn't know there was another Culkin brother?
I'm not, like, I don't keep up with them, so no. I mean, I know there are, like, two more, but that act and stuff, but...
Well, yeah, the good son, right after your Home Alone fame,
that's
Macaulay's first one.
That's Macaulay.
And his brother. Both of them are in it.
What's his brother doing in it? Because the other one's brother. Elijah Wood. No, the other one's Elijah Wood.
No, he's in it. He's in the same movie.
I didn't know that. Is that like kind of like Ron Howard's brother showed up in some of his movies once or something?
Well, Ron Howard's brother only shows up because that's the only way he can get work. But
not true. He was in Silent Night and the Night for an Ice Cream Man.
Ooh, wow.
You would be surprised at how in demand Clint Howard was for a good period of the 80s.
Yeah, oddly enough, yeah. Go back and listen to The Wraith. He was on that one. So
go watch Rock and Roll High School. He's in it.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll High School.
But back to the Culkins. No, I didn't realize there were other Culkins that acted or whatever. And I have a question about his performance specifically at the very end, but we'll get there as it goes. But I mean, like immediately, my wife's never seen this movie, and so I'm watching it with her, and she sees him on there. She's like, "Is that the guy from Home Alone?" I was like, "No, it's his brother." She's like, "Ah, there we go." I was like, "Yeah, it's the face, right? Like you can't deny it." So
yeah, they look a lot alike.
And, I mean, they really like fell out of the same gene, like hot tub. Like they all carry the Culkin face. So, but anyway, well, I guess before we get any deeper into this and we start talking about Emma Roberts' face, because we're going to talk about it, Ron, why don't you hit us up with a plot summary?
You got it. Touring the country off of the success of her new self-help book, Sidney Prescott returns to Woodsboro. She quickly reconnects with her old friend, now Sheriff Dewey, and his wife, Gail Weathers, who's adjusting to small-town living. Sidney also gets to see her mom's sister, Aunt Kate, who we've never heard about until now, and teenage cousin Jill, again, who idolizes Sidney. Ghostface reappears and begins a brutal slaughter around town, targeting many of Jill's peers and classmates. Turns out, Jill is masterminding all of this with the help of film nerd Charlie, because she wants to be internet famous. In her words, she doesn't need friends, she needs fans. Jill kills Charlie, he's the scapegoat, and seemingly kills Sidney before inflicting a bunch of self-injuries Fight Club style and being discovered by authorities who deem her a hero. However, Sidney survives, and when Jill learns this, she gives chase in the hospital, good old Halloween 2 there, where Sidney finally gets the best of her by using defibrillator paddles to shock her to death. Too bad the series can't be revived as it transitions into TV land after credits roll.
Well, that's a good lean summary there, man. We'll have to get into something in the middle, but I'm glad that we get the whodunit out of the way. And that's been the spark of this series in a lot of ways, right? Is that you're trying to figure out who the killers are, and it's a surprise, the first time around, and then the second time it's sort of a surprise. It's a bit of a twist because again, it's a character we didn't know we'd never met before, but at least we'd heard about Billy's mother, right? And then the third time it was the brother we'd never heard of. And so we get a little bit of that here with Aunt Kate, who has scars, by the way, Ron. She's important. And and Cousin Jill, that we also did know. Like, and I think they're living in Sydney's old house, it looks like. I don't know. But we catch up with the old gang. I mean, we've got Sheriff Dewey now and his loyal deputy, played by Marley Shelton, who makes good lemon bars. There's no innuendo in that at all, of course. And
but her lemon bars taste like ass.
Well, they don't. They don't. That's what Dewey says. And then you have Courtney Cox's. Well, you have the body of Courtney Cox. I don't know whose face that is, but that is. Whew, I mean, Courtney's a beautiful woman, but that was not a good look that year. And you have the rest of these people, and it's pretty much like they even talk about it in the movie. Instead of being the rules of the quadrilogy or whatever, it's the rules of the reboot, right? Like it's the reimagining, it's the reboot, because at this point in horror movies, that's what was happening, right? We had the reboot of the Jason movie, and that didn't go anywhere. We were about to get the reboot of the Freddy movie, and that wasn't going to go anywhere. And then we had already had a couple of reboots on Halloween, and that was already dead. So like this was a thing in the horror movies. So they get Williamson to come back and say, well, what do you think about reboots? And I think he could have summed it up in a word, shit, because he obviously hates them.
And yet, Wes Craven did 2 or 3 reboots prior to this, sometimes of his own work, because they redid The Hills Have Eyes, and they redid Last House on the Left.
Yes, which we have reviewed the original Last House on the Left, and I watched the new one, the new version again, after we did that, guys, and far superior. Not even close. Like, much better film all around.
I can't imagine it wouldn't be.
I mean, goodness. Well, as we said, it's the most, like, R-rated nature documentary ever shot. Is that original? I mean, really though. But yeah, this is not anything new for Craven necessarily. But I didn't know that I needed Scream rebooted, and that's what I want to ask you two guys. Is this a reboot? It doesn't feel like a reboot at all. It feels like a one-off kind of special season of Prison Break or something. I mean, like it's we come back and we do a few things and then we're gone after 10 episodes.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like a reboot because, like you said, if you're going to reboot it, you need to kill off the old cast or completely just ignore the old cast.
I don't think it feels like a reboot either. It's a continuation, and I believe that Craven said it's about 10 years after the last Scream 3.
Yes, that's when it's supposed to be. It's the 10-year anniversary, yeah.
Yeah, it's basically Sydney writing her book and her story now and coming to grips with everything and trying to move on.
Well, it's all about her empowerment. Like, she's not taking it laying down anymore. She's going to be, in control and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, it took you that long to write this, though? Like, you think that would have come out like a year or two later.
I didn't know it was a self-help book. I thought it was just like another murder memoir.
I took it as kind of self-helpy because of the way she's pitching it. Like she's reading parts of it in the bookstore and all that crap. And I mean, it sounded like read this and you'll be empowered too kind of book. It was, I mean, it would be sitting next to like Joel Osteen's books or something probably. Well, maybe not.
I was just wondering how many murders has Tony Robbins survived to write all his self-help books.
Well, who knows? I'm surprised we didn't get more cameo like that in this film. This film's cheesy enough to do that, but
we've already crammed in. They crammed in so many cameos prior to the actual opening of the movie.
Yes,
I mean, well, you've got Lucy Hale. Meg Grimes from Degrassi. Lucy Hale is from
Pretty Little
Liars, both of which were very popular things right about this time. You've got Anna Paquin, who of course is True Blood, was on at this time.
Kristen Bell, Veronica Mars.
Kristen Bell. Yeah.
Hayden Panettiere, Heroes.
Well, Hayden Panettiere is a main part of the cast. Like he's talking about that opening of a movie. And then
cameos.
Then you got Amy Teagarden, who was big on Friday Night Lights at the time. So,
Oh, that's right.
yeah. So, I mean, that was her thing. And so you've got all that in the opening. And so I like wrote down some notes here because the opening is a movie inside of a movie inside of a movie. And I was like, wait a minute. So after all the cast, producer, and director of Stab 3 are murdered, all right, they went ahead and made one anyway. And then
Why
more.
not?
I mean, so I actually looked up on the Wikipedia. All right, is a list of the Stab films because there's Stab 1, Stab 2. Then there's Stab 3, which was originally called Return to Woodsboro, but then was changed to Hollywood Horror after the production incidents. And as Amy Teagarden's character Jenny tells us, that's when they stopped following Sidney Prescott's life because after that she threatened to sue them or something like that. So then they got into like the spinoff. So there's Stab 4, The Knife of Doom. And then there's Stab 5, The Clock of Doom, which is the one with time travel. Apparently, where Ghostface goes back in time to kill like Sidney's great grandmother or something. And then there was Stab 6 and Stab 7. Which Stab 7 is kind of the latest one in this whole thing. And I'm just amazed that the studio went ahead with another Stab movie after the whole friggin' cast died and the production team.
Yeah, that seems pretty odd, but hey, even with the killings, that they're out to make money, and I'm guessing that because of the killings, they made more money.
Yeah, they probably had 100. They probably had 3 hours of footage in the can at that point. I mean, there's an hour worth of a Sleepaway Camp 4 that's been released in the Sleepaway Camp survival kit box set, which I own. Yeah, and that's a movie where nobody had any money riding on it, yet they put it out anyway. It's a rough cut. So I have no doubt that somebody in that production would have cobbled together essentially a real life version of like a Blair Witch or a real life version of Cannibal Holocaust or something. And put it out for wide release. Also, I would love it if Stab 5 Clock of Doom was actually a remake of one of my favorite movies, the time traveling Jack the Ripper, Malcolm McDowell, Time After Time.
I've never heard of that, but it sounds awesome.
It is awesome. Jack the Ripper and H.G. Wells travel in time to the 70s, and H.G. Wells has to track down Jack the Ripper.
Okay, so let's just talk about the opening, though, the way that they do it with this Stab, what is it? Stab 7 is the beginning of Stab 6, and we realize these two girls on the couch, Marnie and Jenny, are watching Stab 7, and then they get into this whole discussion about meta horror films and stuff like that. What did y'all make of the opening with the sudden kills and all that stuff?
I thought it was kind of silly. I just didn't see how it had any bearing on the rest of the movie, other than to say, "Hey, look what we've made all these movies in the meantime."
I mean, I get that they're trying to establish that these Stab movies are like a cultural phenomena on par with the Jason or the Freddy's.
Aww.
But the issue to me is that they go to the fake cold open like once too often.
There's 3 of them.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need 3. 1 would have sufficed. And I know you've got all these people who shot your cameos that are like big stars on the WB or Freeform or whatever the Canadian channel is for the Degrassi Girls. You could have just shoehorned them in as like somewhere else in the movie and had them die like you did with Buffy or Drew Barrymore.
I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to recreate that opening again. That gets us off of our hinges. And then it's that statement of if the first Scream movie was about kids who knew all the rules in horror movies that then all of a sudden were in a horror movie, then this is one about kids that have gone through that era and have gone through torture porn now and are also just kind of over it. But they're still in a horror movie, which that's not nearly as interesting as the other one at all. I don't think that works on the same level in any way for an audience to watch.
Yeah, I don't think it works at all either. But I mean, I can understand why you want to do that, because you are dealing with a jaded audience who has grown up with the Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and the rise and fall of the meta horror movie. It just doesn't really work for me.
What about you, Brian?
Can you repeat the question?
Bailiff, does it, if the first Scream was about a bunch of kids that grew up watching horror movies that suddenly found themselves in a horror movie, and that was the irony of it or whatever, this one is pitching itself as kids that have grown past that now and are just kind of over it, but are also still in a horror movie.
I saw this as a very disgruntled family who's had to live in the shadow of what happened to their, I guess, relative who went away and hid, and now the relative is bringing all of it back, and so they're pissed off. That's the vibe I get. I mean, are they living in a horror movie? Sure, right? But that's the premise of all the Screams, so I don't see why that should be any different now.
No, I'm following you. You're talking about what the movie actually is. I'm talking about beyond that, what the movie is purporting itself as this, again, this take on horror movies from people that don't necessarily care about being in one, but then they're all of a sudden in one. Like, again, every young character.
But one of the characters really did care about that.
Well, the one guy, right? Like he's
the main guy.
Charlie.
He helped spawn this whole idea anyway, and got the family member to be involved, right?
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, you just said that. I think all of this is Jill's doing, and she just found and look, her like trigger point is not Sydney and her fame and all that crap. That just seems to be like and a good excuse to do this. She's pissed because her boyfriend cheated on her. That's why she shoots him in the junk at the end of it. I mean, that's the whole thing after all of her ranting and raving is, I'm not the kind of girl you cheat on. Blam, right in the crotch. And I was
that's a side story.
No, see, I think that's the full thing, and I think all this other crap is just sort of the side to her. That's the way it's played. Okay,
no,
Ron.
I don't think so either. I mean, I don't think that's it at all. She wants fame. She wants to be famous like Sydney. That's what she wants. That's just a side story.
I mean, I'm gonna go with Brian on this one. She wants to be famous. Like, she wants to go viral before viral was a thing. All she had to do was wait like a couple years, and she could have got on Instagram and made herself Instagram famous or Vine famous.
Yeah.
But she wants to do it old school, or what was new school then, but is old school now, and I guess have a successful murder channel on YouTube.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like all of this is going to be uploaded to YouTube or whatever so people can see it. But she wants to be the hero, and she does go on a big run about you don't have to do anything anymore to be famous. You just got to like have messed up stuff happen to you. So I orchestrated my messed up stuff,
That's true today too.
Well, and yeah, I think she's making fun of, things like the Kardashians and some of the other like reality TV stuff, people that were famous for just being famous. Probably not so much the Kardashians at that point as like Paris Hilton or somebody like that who was just famous for being famous at that point. Like that was a term or a phrase I heard thrown around a lot. And I get it, and maybe it's just because I'm older and I don't relate to that kind of stuff or anything, but like that's not, like I hear that and I'm like, I don't know. Is that like a good motivation for a horror movie? I guess it's as good as anything else, but it just, I don't know. It just has always kind of seemed weak to me.
It's as good as my mom rejected me and now you're going to pay.
I mean, it is kind of a really weak premise, I suppose, but I mean,
but it fits the time, right? It fits that millennial attitude. And we're in 2017 now, so this is only 6 years ago. So This is the start of that. So it does fit that generation.
And it's funny that you mentioned Paris Hilton because one of these roles was actually written for Paris Hilton.
Really?
One of the two murdered girls in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or not the two like real murdered girls. Not the ones in Stab.
The one that gets undressed and then gets killed from the closet. That girl.
Yeah. Well, the two like Amy Teagarden and Brady Roberts, Jenny and Marnie.
Yeah, yeah.
They were, if I remember correctly, they were supposed to be
Nicole and Paris.
Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan.
Oh, that would have been awesome. But you know what though? They're too old for they can't pass as teenagers at all anymore. Especially
actually, my bad. It was the Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell roles from the cold opening of Stab 7.
They're 20-somethings. Like, nobody would have bought that as millennials.
Well, yeah, but Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell were both in 20-somethings. I think that was part of why you would get Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan.
No. I'm saying Amy Teagarden and the other girl, I can't remember her name, Marnie is the character. Like they look like teenagers. They're teenagers. You know, they both were.
Yeah, but he is saying that Paris Hilton is supposed to be in the Anna Paquin Kristen Bell scene, not.
Oh, I thought you were saying they're supposed to be the two teenage girls. Okay.
Yeah, but I got it backwards. Okay. Those two girls were Britt Robertson from Under the Dome is Marnie.
Okay.
By the way.
Yeah, I love that girl.
Okay, so either way,
but yeah, the Anna Paquin and Kristen Bell were supposed to be Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan. Well, I assume they couldn't afford that much cocaine.
Oh, ouch!
That's probably true, actually. I don't know. Is this around the time Lindsay was doing "I Know Who Killed Me," or that may have been before this, I guess. But by the way, if you haven't seen that, folks, that's a bad movie recommend right there. But anyway, back to Scream 4.
This is after that.
So this is after. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit
several years after.
So we get this new youthful cast, right? And like I said, I recognized Jill and Kirby. I knew Emma Roberts from several things, and then Hayden Panettiere. I mean, remember the Titans? I knew she was a little kid, and then of course she had grown
Heroes.
up. Yeah, she was in that, and she was in what was the other one? Not John Tucker Must Die, but one of those kind of films. I Love You, Beth Cooper. She was in that, and so I'd seen her before she was married to the boxer. Like I've seen her in a lot of stuff, so she, recognizable faces again, right? And that's one thing I'll give Williamson credit for here is he realizes he's dealing with a totally different set of kids completely, and he is good at putting their culture and their ways into his stuff quick. You got the chick that's driving the SUV way out of control, listening to her loud friggin' nothing music, and they're all playing on their iPhones all the time and stuff. I'm like, that's one thing that this movie is 14 years past the first Scream, but holy cow, how much stuff had changed in 14 years. But he seemed to capture the youth culture pretty quick.
I think he did a great job of capturing the youth culture. Like you said, just sitting there looking at your phones all the time and, well, where'd I place my phone? All that stuff. Everything that they did in this was perfect for the culture of the time. I mean, iPhones had been out now for around 4 years or so, and they were big. Cell phones and smartphones were huge at this point.
We're playing with apps.
And they disable the router later on in the movie.
Yeah,
there's a router disabled.
Yeah,
and the kids got what's his name? Yes, not Charlie, but
Robbie, the kid that's on the internet all the time with the camera and the headset.
Yeah, Robbie's got what essentially is going to become a GoPro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they got the webcam in there.
Yeah, he's constantly and even Gail is setting up cameras all over the place,
Yeah, and she gets caught on a webcam.
Exactly. She just figures out that,
Which Gail setting up cameras was kind of a stretch for me.
Yeah, I didn't take Gail as
wireless cameras too.
The kind of person that would know how to do. When we meet Gail, let's just talk about poor old Gail here. We meet Gail, and she is sitting there trying to figure out what the H she should be talking about to somebody, right? Because what she should be writing about now, because husband is, the sheriff now, which I'm like, wow, Dewey, good job. Dude, you ascended well. But you've got that, and you've got her sitting there at her mat going, I have no idea what the F to write. You know, she has no.
We got to remember too that Dewey drops the line that she's writing fiction books now, not nonfiction, which is what she's good at.
Right, and she had written one fiction book and it bombed. So so she's already like tried this and it didn't work, and now Sydney's got success with her nonfiction book, so that's a little awkward and weird. So I kind of feel for Gail, and now I'm going to say this right now. Courtney Cox is terrible in this movie, but I feel for that character because she did kind of give up the life finally for Dewey, basically. And she's like got nothing going for her now at all. So when this happens, I get why she is like, I'm jumping on this story. I know everything about, she has some line in there about, I literally wrote the book on it, or whatever. And I thought, well, that's pretty funny. I mean, I kind of feel for Gail in this. I mean, she really doesn't have anything going for her.
Well, I mean, to be fair, to be unfair to Dewey, his meteoric rise to sheriff is, if where I live is anywhere like Woodsboro, the sheriff is elected by the people, and everyone would know Dewey's name. Oh, yeah. And they're like, oh, well, we feel bad for him. So now that his dad's not the sheriff anymore, or no, it wasn't his dad. No. That was in the campus.
Yeah.
Where his real dad was the fake sheriff. Yeah. But yeah, Dewey's well known. He's clearly well liked. Everyone kind of feels bad for him because how many times has he been shot and stabbed at this point? Like,
eight times now.
He's walking around pretty good. I was like, man, I guess time heals all wounds, Dewey?
Hey, technology grows. Maybe they had the tech to fix him now.
Maybe he did stem cells, too. We don't know. It's California.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe when he got stabbed in his old scar tissue, it straightened his leg back up in the third one.
Could have been. So, but yeah, he's got things going for him. Go ahead. You were running with that, Ron.
Yeah, he's clearly got things going for him. And as someone who does write occasionally, I can totally empathize with Gail because there's nothing quite as intimidating as looking at a blank page and knowing you've got a deadline. Now, she doesn't have a deadline. She can take all the time in the world she's got for this book. But yeah, I could definitely see why that would be pathetic for her. But my question is, if Jane Pauley walked into any local newsroom in this country, do you not think she would get a job immediately?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think she had probably done enough. Don't you think she could get back on Entertainment Weekly or whatever the hell it was she was on?
Oh, yeah.
Probably, but you got to remember she did kind of smut news, not news. No, Jane Pauley had a reputational career.
No, that's what I'm saying. She was doing like entertainment style news. She couldn't go back to doing some of that. I guess she couldn't.
She was doing TMZ style news, not entertainment style news.
She couldn't do it from Woodsboro though. I think that's the trick.
But I think that name should have enough cachet in Woodsboro that she could transition to doing straight news. I mean,
it all depends on what she did in the 10 years prior.
Yeah, but no, not really, because you don't need to be good. Like, you don't need to be a good reporter to be successful in local news. You have to be, like, popular and well-liked. And if she was a fixture on national TV, she ought to be...
Yeah, but there's ego involved, too.
Well, that I think you've hit on. I think she could be the queen of local news, but I think Brian's right. She doesn't want that. She had national fame and recognition, and she's given all that up, and now she doesn't know what to do with herself. And so that's one thing I want to talk about, though, here, because when she eventually follows the kids to the party, and she gets attacked and stabbed, I was like... When I first saw this, I was like, yes, they're finally going to kill one of the old characters because they need to do that anyway to give it some weight. But that's the perfect one to take out. Like, Dewey survived everything. He's a friggin' Terminator at this point. Can't kill him. We're not going to kill Nev. Not like this, at least. So kill Courtney Cox because, one, she doesn't have anything going for her, and she gets fame hungry again, and she starts chasing it, and that should be her demise. The fact that she lives, now she's pretty much out of the movie, but she lives from this, that just sinks the whole thing. I'm like, no, she needed to not be there. That character needed to die.
And she needed to die so we could continue the Scream tradition of everyone Dewey knows and loves getting murdered.
Right.
Good point. Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with that. But that's a good point. Does anyone that Dewey loves and cares about get murdered in this one? I don't think so.
No. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, I guess he cares about these kids, but no. I mean, his wife gets stabbed. And
Does he care about the kids?
He yells at that one for speeding down the road. I'm giving him benefit of the doubt.
That's just yelling at it. That's doing your job.
I know. I'm giving him benefit of the doubt. But you're right. He doesn't care. Why should he? I mean, he's got it made. He's got everything he ever wanted in life. So, I don't know. He's got Deputy Lemon bars, too. So, I mean, holy cow. This guy's got everything he wants.
She's laying it on thick.
I don't know. I felt like, well, okay, I'm asking though, do you guys agree with me? Gail should have died at that point, right? That would have meant something.
Oh yeah, she should have died like with some Japanese style blood spray out of her throat and everything.
Oh, but you wanted to get like serious.
I wanted her to get, what was the line from the beginning? Stabbed in the neck until you feel bone.
Ooh.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Boy, Ghostface, Roger Jackson, same voice once again back here. Boy, he talks a whole lot in this movie. I mean, shut the hell up.
And thankfully in his own voice the whole time.
He's not, we don't have any more of that voice changing technology. So, we have the app now.
But now we have the app.
Yeah, because everybody can talk like Ghostface now, which I'm not going to lie. I'm an idiot. I went and looked to see if the app was there. So, but I mean, really though, I think she should have gone because it would have made some weight happen right there. What happens at that otherwise blood party? Nothing. The router gets smashed. Like nothing else comes of that.
At this point, like the 4-leaf clover that she's clinging on to needs to have lost its leaves because you're right. It does work a lot better if she loses her life in pursuit of that brass ring again, the thing that she had and lost or gave away. She finds that purpose again. Plus, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Dewey would have been much happier with Deputy Lemon bars.
Well, yeah. I mean, she's supportive, nice to him. They have the same career path. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So this is also awkward and weird because, like, weren't they breaking up at this point in real life?
I believe
that's a good question.
Either they had, or either they were getting close to it, or they already had.
Yeah,
which is even weirder.
Yeah, I'm like, well, that would have been awkward on the set. Like, it wasn't weird enough, right? But I don't know. I was watching that going like, the chemistry between them was always kind of weird anyway, but now it's really weird. Like, I'm like, this doesn't work anymore.
Apparently they didn't get divorced until 2013, which it doesn't seem like
they
it.
didn't file for divorce until June 2012.
2012. Okay. So it wasn't long after this then. So, I don't know. They just don't have anything here, and I don't buy their whole reconciliation either. It seems kind of superfluous because none of this matters. That's the thing we should mention. The fact that she gets stabbed is just an excuse to get her off the screen, right? Like that's all that does. It doesn't.
They separated in 2010.
I mean, it doesn't do anything for the story when she gets stabbed and sent to the hospital. It's just so he can have somebody to talk to later at the hospital. Like there's nothing that services at all.
I mean, the only purpose that it really serves is that she identifies that Jill's the killer because she knows
she does at the end. Yeah,
that's her purpose in the movie.
How did she know I got stabbed? Oh, see, you know what? I didn't think about it like that, but you're right, Brian. So now they've given her more to do than she deserves. That sucks. That's even.
See, I thought.
Not that you not kill her.
See, I assumed her whole purpose in this movie was for that dialogue scene she has where they talk about how a marriage between her and David Arquette / Dewey would never work out in real life.
Because it wasn't when they were shooting it. So, maybe so. I don't know. It's just, again, I know we needed somebody to turn the clue there at the end. You're right, Brian, but that could have happened to anybody. You know, it could have been.
It could have, yeah.
Sydney could have done it. Sydney could have said that. They could have let her reveal that.
No, because Sydney was still unconscious.
I know,
and we had to get Jill in there to try and kill her again.
Well, you know what? You could have had Dewey go in there, and Sydney's unconscious, and he holds her hand. And he's like, "I can't lose you too. I lost Gail, lost everybody, blah blah blah," and just run through all the people that he loves that have been murdered, and for her to wake up and look at him and go, "Where's Jill?" And he's like, "She's fine. She survived too." And she's like, "No, she did it, a-hole." And the next thing you know, but yeah, but he has to reveal that. He lays that on Jill. He's the one who tells Jill that. So,
or you could have the scene, just the scene where they're talking about Gail, Dewey, and what's her face,
Lemon Bars,
Jill. Dewey and Jill are talking about Gale in the past tense, and then Dewey connects that, as he's walking away, talking to Lemon Bar, that Dewey connects that she's going to have the exact same shoulder stab wound that Gale has. Maybe we can let Dewey actually be an effective
sheriff
officer.
Yeah, let him. I mean, he was a decent PI in part 2. He could have been a good cop, right? So,
yeah.
I'm with you.
They could have killed her too in that scene where they're in there and she shoots Jill.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, but at that point we had already gone down the road, man. It was over.
I suppose, but that could have done it there.
We're hanging up on the end, like we haven't even talked about any of the kids. But go ahead.
Who cares about the kids? Didn't it look like to you that
shot in the head?
Yes, Marley Shelton looked like she got shot.
Yes, I thought she got shot in the dome, and I feel, and I can't prove it, but I feel like maybe in one version that was what happened, but then in a rewrite, like she popped back up, and they kept the shot of her taking it in the head because it looked better. I don't know. I mean, they shot the
gotta be something because it looked like they even put a hole in her head.
Right.
Yes, and you can see like brain pieces or something fly out of her head where she gets shot.
It's that squib. Yeah. I'm telling you, man. Like, I think they had a good shot, and Wes was like, "Well, we'll just use the shot. Nobody will know the difference." And now
there's no squid. Jay. We know there was no squid. That was CGI. CGI brain meat.
You are correct. That is a computer. And, well, you know what? Maybe the guy on the computer was like, "F y'all," he did it anyway. I don't know.
I'm putting it in the final cut.
So, I know better than all of you. So, I mean, really, I don't know. But you're right. I thought she got shot in the head, too. So when she pops back up to kill Jill, who's up for one last scare because we got to do that damn thing again. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, look, we already killed her by doing the paddle thing. I want to tell you another movie that uses that's awful. The remake of Black Christmas uses that same damn thing. And it's terrible in that, too. So, when they were doing that whole, like, I've just got one thing to say, clear. And I'm like, oh, God, I know you didn't do that. Clear, and they shock her to death. I was like, that's dumb.
I wish she had said clear and then a bunch of Thetans invaded Jill's body and like gave her depression.
So yeah, exactly. So then she had to go and work out all of her differences. That'd have been perfect.
Yeah, and the last scene is her sitting at the big Scientology castle in Clearwater with Tom Cruise.
That would be perfect. That well, look, they weren't going to pay Lindsay and Paris's coke fee. They weren't going to pay Tom's fees. Okay, let's dial that down a little bit. But really, though, I didn't see that going that way, but we're all the way at the end. And I know we said we don't care about the kids. We got to talk a little bit about the kids because they are the ones doing all the murder, or at least one of them is. What did y'all make of the fact that it was the film nerd that was the muscle, basically? Because I'm not certain of this, but I don't think either of the actors that are revealed to be the killers are ever in the costumes except when they take their masks off. Like those people did not look like they fit in that at all.
I thought it was going to end up being the video camera guy for the longest time, but the instant that Charlie was strapped in the chair, I knew it was him.
Oh, really? Why did that tip it off for you, the Steve callback?
Because he didn't seem like he was too concerned. I mean, based on his movements and attitude and everything else, I just felt that was him.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't as freaked out as Steve was in the first one. Plus, I didn't feel like they were going to repeat the same thing they've already done.
Well, I don't know. They'd repeated so many other things. They were repeating dialogue at that point.
And that's why I assumed that they weren't going to do this one because it would be too cool to watch that Culkin kid get gutted.
Yeah, I felt that right at that point that kind of tipped it that he was one of them. And the other one I didn't really catch on to. I thought it was a weird one to choose, but in the end, I guess it makes some sense. You got to put it on one of the other kids because of the whole millennial thing going on here. And then I did like the fact that they brought back 2, and they made it obvious right away that there were 2, which I thought was great.
Yeah, there were 2 killers. Yeah, surrounding people. Yeah, that was nice. I kind of thought. I mean, I'll be honest. I thought we might get like 4. I thought when I first saw this, I thought all of these kids are going to turn out to be the killers. Like Hayden Panettiere is going to be in on this, and Video Kid, and Rory Culkin, and Jill. They're all going to like be the killers, and that's going to be the twist, right? I just didn't pick up on the kill my own.
That was what we talked about. That's what we talked about for Scream 3. Remember?
Right. Yeah.
That was the original ending for Scream 3, and it's like Kevin Williamson took some of his ideas that he wasn't able to use for Scream 3 and recycled them into Scream 4.
Well, I mean, wasn't able to use. They trashed it and never used any of it, so I'm sure he had it sitting there going, well, hey, Wes, I've got this idea that you hated 10 years ago. Let's try that now. So
Wes didn't hate the idea.
Yeah.
They didn't want to associate Scream 3 with Columbine.
This is true. This is true. But,
But if you're gonna have somebody kill like out of a motivation to become famous, it needs to be Gail.
Thank you. That would have been the other thing you could do was have Gail start all of this back up. That would be the ultimate Scooby-Doo.
And she had the perfect reason too. She was jealous of Sydney getting famous off of her story.
Right. And like, what if it was her, Jill, and Charlie? Like that would have been like the ultimate reveal is that all of this is Gail's thing. That would have been awesome.
Yeah,
which is probably why they didn't do it.
I mean, they went. I'll say this about Emma Roberts: she has a fierce look to her, like at all times. Like she always looks like she's on the verge of cutting onions or cutting your throat at any moment. Like she just has that face, right? But she has a good like presence on screen. Everything I've ever seen her in, I'm like, she's really good. Even in like really cheesy stuff. I mean, I watched a little bit of that show Scream Queens, which is hilarious at times, but it's also really trashy. But she's great in it. I mean, she's really good in it, and she's like the perfect mean girl. So I get why they would have cast her for the role and got her to do it, especially opposite of Hayden Panettiere, who's like America's sweetheart. She's the cute blonde girl, and now we cut her hair off and we kind of make her punky and neat, and she's forward with the guy she likes, but. And that's ultimately what gets her killed, too, because she didn't pay him enough attention beforehand. So he guts her with a friggin' Conan knife. But she's basically
the proto version of Audrey from the Scream TV show.
Thank you. Yes, she very much is the proto version of the Audrey character from the Scream TV show, which is. I mean, again, I go back to my theory of like, maybe they wanted to do the TV show and nobody wanted them to do it. I don't know, but there seems to be so much of the TV show in this film. It's hard not to notice it.
And I mean, honestly, Emma Roberts is much more of a TV person to me than a movie star.
I think she's made much more of an impression in her television roles. I agree with you there.
Yeah, she definitely is more akin to Eric Roberts than Julia Roberts.
Hey, I like Eric Roberts. So
I love Eric Roberts, but Eric Roberts walks that line of either looking like he's going to cry or looking like he's about to commit a murder, usually erring on the side of committing murder.
Is she not his daughter? Isn't that right?
She is.
See, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, yeah. Because I knew she was Julia's niece. I'm like, maybe she's his daughter. Yeah, she's his daughter. So that's perfect. Yeah. Well, I mean, she definitely gets the old man's facial expressions. That's for sure.
Like the crazy eyes? Yeah.
Yeah, that. And also, again, that kind of boiling underneath the surface thing. of the kids, though, here's the thing. I got a question about Rory Culkin here. Because I kind of like him through most of the movie. I mean, he's fun. You know, I buy it. He seems kind of neat and interesting. But at the end, when like the reveal's going on, why is he skulking around like friggin' Igor? You know, yes, mister. Like he's humped over and all this stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? You didn't get stabbed yet. Why are you? It's just the weirdest performance. Did either of you catch that in the kitchen? I was like, that is so not the way you've played this.
I did not catch that.
I saw him behaving weirdly, but I just assumed that was because he was a Culkin, and they kind of end up making strange choices in their acting roles.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could just be him being nervous too about everything.
I guess I had never thought about like it's just the way he plays it again, because he has this kind of quiet confidence but nerdy thing, like he's a little introverted the whole movie, and then at the end, like I said, he's just sort of hopping around like he's jacked up on speed or something.
He starts hair acting.
Yes, he keeps playing with his friggin' hair. Thank you. Yes.
And like all of a sudden the hair's like he's hiding behind it where he wasn't before, and he's messing with it all the time. And I don't know what like compelled him to make that choice, or what made Wes Craven say, "Hey, start playing with that weird hair."
Yeah, I don't know either. It's
but you're right. He definitely changes from I guess it's all brought on by him killing Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah, because, I mean, what happens is she goes out there, like, we get the Scream phone call again, and this time you get the horror expert, Kirby, on the phone, and she just rattles off, like, 50 answers in a row, and, like, she thinks she answered the quiz, right? And she goes to untie him, and that's when he pulls out the, miniature Rambo sword to stab her with. And that whole bit about all these years and you just now ignore me, bitch, and kills her some more.
He should have slept with her first.
I kind of got the sense that there were no virgins in this movie. I'm just going to throw that out there. I think that had flown out the window.
I'm going to say Charlie was a virgin.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
I'm going to say the other kid, was it Robbie? I'm going to say he is too.
I don't think so. Robbie's gay, so.
Well, he could still be a virgin.
He could be, but I didn't take him as one of those.
I don't think Robbie was actually gay. I think Robbie was just saying that.
Just saying that to try to not get murdered at the end again?
Yeah, because he says,
he says gay people don't get married.
Yeah.
Or murdered.
Get
married. Get
2011, murdered. I don't know if we're doing that or not either. That's a good point, Brian.
Like in Hawaii, I think.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. So, but point being, he does try to pull out all the stops and it doesn't work. But I mean, he's the perfect avatar for that other kid in the Scream TV show too, the one that kind of runs the podcast and blog and does the web stuff all the time. They just kind of split the Robbie character into two and gave him like a female best friend, so who's bi-curious. I think that's what she calls herself. So, but anyway, that's more about the TV show. But I don't know. He kills Kirby. I wanted Kirby to live. I hated that she died, but I get why she needed to, because she's the perfect kind of cannon fodder for this. By the way, Trevor deserved to die for a lot of reasons, but for being cock block of the year, I think that's the biggest one, right? He totally screws up Charlie's game. I mean, maybe that's why Charlie was like, F it, and just went with it before he went and killed those two useless cops, OC and Anthony Anderson, in the car. But,
yeah.
How about some more blood than necessary?
I don't think brain injuries bleed gallons of blood.
No. I also don't think if you get stabbed right in the middle of the brain, you can walk around like.
Apparently, you can.
Wow. Really?
Because Wes Craven saw a thing about a guy who got stabbed in the head, and he drove himself to the hospital, and that's where Wes Craven got that idea.
Yeah, but he got stabbed right down the middle of the two sides.
Wow. That's
but
the other guy probably got stabbed in the side of the head.
But no, because if you get stabbed in the middle of the brain, you still got two functioning halves of the brain.
Good point.
Because when they do, there's a treatment for, I think it's epilepsy, where they basically go in and they cut out that little middle connecting thing that connects your left side of your brain to your right side of your brain, and it makes epileptics normal.
I didn't know that.
Huh. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
This is
educational.
Educational podcast today too. I'm like serious. I did not know that. That's interesting. So, well, I don't know. I think it was just because he's such a ham, and they wanted him to go F Bruce Willis because they've been having that talk about tough cops and how they survive or whatever. But and that was, I mean, when I was in the theaters, people laughed. I laughed at that. I chuckled. I thought it was funny. I was like, that's cute. So I was like, that's also probably Miramax doing one for their buddy Kevin Smith. So because they know
who'd already suffered through Cop Out.
Yeah, they already knew the hell that Bruce had put him through. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's not why that's in there. But anyway, yeah, I mean, yeah. So Charlie gets blocked, like we say, and then all this goes down. But Aunt Kate, I wrote in my notes, I was like, why are you here again? Oh, right, your scars. Yeah, as you said in the plot summary, we didn't know anything about you to begin with. I don't know that we need to know anything about you now. Like, I guess we have to have a parent because Jill's underage. Like, that's the reason that we have her, right? That's the only reason.
And so that Jill can kill her mom.
Right, and she blows that off. Like, no loss there. It's like, woo, harsh.
Love you, Mommy. That's the only time she's even seen in the movie, isn't it?
No, she's in 2 scenes. She's in one earlier and then the grocery scene where she dies. You're right. She's not in there much.
That mom was originally supposed to be Lauren Graham from Gilmore Girls.
That I could have bought. Mary McDonald looks like she could be Emma Roberts' grandmother. So, like, that would have been neat if we had Lauren Graham buy it like that.
It would have just been another, like, little nod to the WB cast crew that make up this film.
Yeah, but think about it, though. Like, she could pass as Neve Campbell's aunt. They kind of look alike. Like, Mary McDonald and Neve Campbell, like, they come from the same pool at all. So
the same pool.
I mean, anything, tree, whatever. So I'm just saying. So you cast sometimes 2 on the nose, but that one would have been slight enough. That would have worked. But either way, she's in 2 scenes. She gets killed, and as Jill says, no big loss. And I didn't care. I was like, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't care either.
Are you gonna walk around in the sheet and haunt us now again? We're gonna do that shit again because that was the only reason I would have cared. But anyway, so it was. I don't know. It's all to get to the end, the reveal time. Trevor gets the 9mm to the junk and then to the head, and talk about a bad looking effect, by the way, man. CGI bullet holes in the head up close do not look real. Doesn't work at all. That looked bad. And then friggin' Igor walking around before Jill turns on him and takes him out. I did like the fact that, like, I kind of always harbored a guess that Billy was trying to kill Stu all along anyway, but he was being sly about it. Jill's like, screw it, and just kills him. That tells you how pathetic that dude was.
I was hoping that Charlie would actually have killed Jill instead of vice versa.
I would say it would have turned around that Jill had this great plan, but then Charlie killed her. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, because Charlie would have learned his lesson from the first Stab movie.
Ah, good point. That would have been smart. We obviously didn't review the script enough to get to that, but yeah, okay. I like that. That's a better ending, Ron. Good work.
Yeah, well, clearly that's why they couldn't do it. Plus, I mean, you've got a random Culkin, and then you've got one of the illustrious Roberts family of actors. You're going to go with your Roberts.
Roberts, Culkins. I don't know. How do they rank with the Arquettes? I mean, that's...
Well, the Arquette survives.
This is true. The Arquette survives. You're right. So that's a good point. Okay, what about the showdown in the hospital, though? The epilogue of it, because like the way it goes when she's being wheeled out to the hospital, and then even afterward, after she's been killed, like she is lauded as the hero. Like she gets what she wants. Just too bad it's the wrong story. Is that supposed to be a smack at the news for running with the wrong story? A lot of times, aka Colin.
Well, they don't know what's going on inside yet,
right?
So,
but they're running to get the story because that's what they do.
Well, of course, they're propped up outside. All they know is she's alive. She's in there. She's the hero of the day, And I kind of like that they ended on that and didn't actually learn the correct stuff, because now she gets her 15 seconds of fame before all of a sudden she's the murderer.
Right.
So in a sense, she gets what she wants. Unfortunately, she's not around to see it.
I think it would have been a much braver movie if they'd stopped right there. And we'd gotten her being wheeled out of that house. Everyone thinks she's the hero and her plan is successful. And then maybe you do a Scream 5 where she's being hunted by somebody who knows the truth. And then boom, that's Neve Campbell.
That would have been interesting.
Wow, yeah. Neve Campbell as Ghostface? Interesting.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, it's like
let's get to work on this movie right now, guys.
It's like what's his name said in The Dark Knight. You either go out on top as the hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I mean, we wanted Gail to be the killer. Why the hell couldn't Sydney finally just snap?
Well, she's already murdered a few people.
I mean, she has killed a lot of people, so this is true. So. I could
most prolific self-defense killer in America.
Probably behind Chuck Norris, but good call nonetheless.
Chuck.
Hey man, don't.
But we don't know how many people Chuck Norris has killed for real.
This is true. This is also true. So,
jeez.
Well, one thing's for sure, this movie series was dead at the end of this, and I have seen varied reports about, yeah, we're going to bring it back. No, we're not going to bring it back. I don't know what to believe. The television show was really successful for a couple of years. They're going in a different direction with that now. Do either of you know anything? Like, are they ever going to come back to Scream again, you think, or is this one done?
It's got to be done. What else can they do other than what we said? Have one either Gail or Neve be the killer?
Well, you could probably make Scream 5 a lot cheaper now that, Courtney Cox isn't getting a lot of TV work anymore, and Neve Campbell's essentially disappeared.
And is David Arquette still with us? I haven't seen him in a long time.
WCW World Heavyweight Champion David Arquette is just fine.
It's good to know.
Alive and well, sir.
It's good to know.
I think he's making appearances at WrestleFest now.
Maybe he'll make a joke. Well, if TNA was still owned by the same people, he'd probably be going there next. But anyway, so I think we're at the
He can always get a job with Billy Corgan's NWA.
This is true. He probably could. So, well, I think we're at the point of the podcast where it's time to give final thoughts and popcorn ratings. So what are yours for Scream 4? Brian?
Well, honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I actually enjoyed this one, and I don't know if that's a product of the fact that we got two pieces of crap in 2 and 3, or that this was actually a better movie all around. Was it awesome? No. Did it have flaws? Of course. But I actually enjoyed watching this one. So for me, I'm going to actually give it a medium popcorn. I thought it was worth watching again, and I probably will watch it again.
Ron?
I had the exact opposite experience as Brian. I found it pretty hard to watch, if only because I kept losing interest in the movie. And I don't know if that's just me or if that was a testament to the kind of bland look of everything. Like, I kept zoning out really hard. So for me, it's a small popcorn. I wasn't a huge fan of it when I saw it in the theater, and I'm less of a fan of it now. It kind of makes 3 look like a better movie, which is a weird thing to say.
Wow, that is a strange thing to say. I'm going to say this about this movie. It is infinitely better than the third one. Not even close. And it's probably as rewatchable as the second one, if I weren't so darn bored with it, because it goes on. I mean, it's almost 2 hours long, and I'm like, you could have cut 20 minutes out of this, I think, and it would have been lean and mean and probably worked better. I mean, part of it was I didn't really relate to the whole meta context of the story, and also the wrong people were getting killed or not getting killed, as we've talked about. And I just kept thinking, this movie just wants to talk about how crappy reboots are, but then it wants to be a reboot. Like, that's all it knows how to do. And that to me was just really disappointing. And the thing about it is, it's not terrible. Like, it's not off the rails and just dumb. So it looks decent, and most of it, works effects wise. It's got the best opening song of any of them, by the way. That song about the sounds, "To Die For," is a great song. That's way better than "Red Right Hand." So we didn't get any.
What isn't?
Yeah, really. So, but I thought it was okay, but gosh, it just always leaves me wanting more. Like, it could be so much better. And that's the definition so many times of what I call the medium popcorn movie. The middling, mediocre could be so much better, but doggone it, it just doesn't want to be. It's just going to be the damn New York Jets. And that's what this movie is. It's decent, but it's just never quite good enough. So it's a medium popcorn for me.
Are you saying that this is the Vinny Testaverde of the Scream franchise?
Maybe
it's
so.
The definition of 8 and 8.
Maybe so. Yeah, the Jeff Fisher. Sorry, Brian. So
no, it's true.
Yeah, it is. It's very true. Look, it could be so much more, but it just refuses to be, in spite of itself. And it had opportunities, but just didn't happen. And I say now, I don't want them to make any more. I don't want any more Scream movies. I liked those first 2 seasons of that TV show. That's fine. I'll watch the third one too to see what that's all about. But I don't need another movie. Now, Ron, I've talked a lot about the TV show. What did you make of it? You watched it, reviewed it. Your wife reviewed it for Den of Geek.
I really enjoyed the TV show. If the 2 seasons of Scream which I actually haven't finished the second season yet. I've got like 3 episodes left. But if the 2 seasons of Scream that I watched were a Scream movie, it would be the second best Scream movie.
Agreed.
Like, it's definitely up there. The first season especially, I loved the first season because it was the meta thing, but it was done better. The pacing I thought was really well done. Better certainly than this movie, which you're right, it is half an hour too long, and I think that's why I couldn't focus on it. Like, I checked the runtime of this like 5 times while I was watching it, and it just felt like it seemed to crawl.
Because it does.
So, yeah, cut this thing to 88 minutes, and it's a better movie.
Yeah, maybe there's a good fan edit out there that I'm just not aware of, and that would be awesome if there was.
Where they replace Emma Roberts with Jar Jar Binks?
No, I think Emma can stay, but maybe we can get a little bit of the. I don't know what you can cut. I don't. Now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I don't know what you cut out, but maybe cut Aunt Kate completely because who cares? And the cops.
Cut Aunt Kate. Cut Aunt Kate. She doesn't matter.
Cut the cops. Cut lemon bars way back.
You can keep lemon bars and you can keep Anthony Anderson. Lemon bars and Anthony Anderson were 2 of the things I actually liked
because they're funny. They're good.
Lemon bars, Anthony Anderson, and OC were great. Like, I would watch a movie with like this Woodsboro Keystone Cops versus Ghostface all day long. You cut out Gail. She's not important.
Unless she's the killer or dying.
Kids.
Yes.
Right. Unless you make Gail the killer, you could cut out. You could cut out the Culkin. You could cut out Hayden Panettiere, and you'd still have an efficient movie. Like, I would love to watch like a Woodsboro Cops hunting down this Ghostface because it's a more interesting crew of actors. And they have the freedom to be funny, where I don't think it didn't feel like any of the teenagers could tell a joke to save their lives.
I think Hayden Panettiere has a little bit of comic timing, but you're right. They didn't hire these people to be funny. And Emma Roberts is certainly not a comedic actor. She has a dry wit. She's a smartass. So if you laugh at her, that's why. But none of these other people are funny, and all the funny got laid to lemon bars and Anthony Anderson, honestly. So
Charlie and Robbie should have been funnier, because if you're going to have one of them be the Jamie Kennedy, he needs to be funny. And if you're going to have one of them be what's his face, Shaggy, he needs to have some kind of weird energy, and at no point are either of them funny or have like weird energy.
Culkin has that weird energy at the end,
except for the very end where Culkin starts acting like Igor.
Yeah. So,
even then, just give me Marty Feldman.
You want to have fun? Those two could have been a couple and turned the screws on Jill. How about that?
I would like that too. More interesting movie.
Yeah. But like we said, it just didn't work. Now, Brian, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you found something in it that you could go with. I mean, this movie has its fans, that's for sure, and it didn't make great money, but it made it money, and it was enough that they decided, you know what, doing a TV show after this is not a far stretch. Like, we could make that work, and MTV's produced some pretty decent, young adult, young teenager television in the last few years, so more power to them for getting it done. But
change their freaking name.
Well, that's another story for another day. But I'm glad we got to talk about it here on Film Strip, guys. We'll be back later on this year. Some more stuff. Both of you will be on some different shows with me. I got some new things coming up later on this summer and then on into the fall as well. So, folks, of course, you can find all of our episodes on our iTunes feed, also on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Leave us a good review on iTunes. Helps people find the show. We appreciate your support. Until next time, for Ron and Brian, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.